Okay, everybody, at this point you should have some experience with SketchUp. You've made some little objects, you've learned about components, and maybe you completed the box project or something like that. What you're seeing here is SketchUp. SketchUp, of course, is a free product, and in this case, I've installed a plugin called SketchyPhysics, which is also a free download. You can go home and do a search for that and install it if you already have SketchUp. The SketchyPhysics plugin will simulate collision detection. It'll make little machines and things can be tossed around inside SketchUp, which is pretty neat. So we're going to start just by doing some real basic stuff and having fun with it, and then we'll move on to doing some high-end projects as we go along. So first of all, the file we're working with right now is an architectural file, which means it's in feet and inches. You get that depending on what sort of template you start with. This one just happens to have a floor and a sky. Now the floor and the sky, or the ground and the sky, are green and blue, like the ground and the sky, but they're not really there. They're just colors. There's not really anything underneath the person. If you look at her from underneath, you can see that. So that's fine when you're working with shapes, but in this case, what we want to work with is solids. We want to have objects that move, which fall, and stuff like that. So if we make something and it falls and there's not anything under her, it'll just go forever and ever. So the first thing we're going to do is use a floor. So I say click on create a solid floor, boom. Now just for my own peace of mind, I'm going to park some of these toolbars out of the way. If they're not already there, you should move yours around so that they're organized. We created a floor. Now we've got a solid object underneath our person. And I'm going to create a box. Let's start with these shapes. Now these here are going to be different than if I was to draw a rectangle and then push it up, which would create something that was shaped like a box, but this is a little bit different, and we'll see how to create our own as we go. For now, we're just going to use these prefabs in here. Now, another thing you'll notice is that sometimes SketchUp gets kind of particular about accepting numbers. You should be able to type in that distance there. There it did. Took it that time. I wasn't able to get it to work when I bring it up. Let's say if I type in 9 feet. Yeah, it's not going to do it when I bring it up. You notice this is different because it kind of automates the whole thing as opposed to drawing a rectangle and then pushing it up. It's not several different commands. It's one command that you have to click on a couple of different places. Anyway, here's my box. Let's make some other shapes. I'll make another box that's sitting on top of that box. Try to get that right. I'm going to click on that edge to start out with, and down a little bit, and then over some. And then there's our height. So now that box is overhanging the first box. And I'll make a sphere, which is sitting on the corner. And just to be sure, I'll just make some random objects here, cones, and this is called a capsule. So it doesn't have to look like that. It's up to you what you want to create, but go ahead and make some random stuff. You need to start with the floor. You get some stuff in there. And then what we're going to do is move forward in time, because right now these objects are just waiting for us to allow them to fall, because they are kind of stuck in midair there. To move forward in time, we hit the play button, the green arrow, play physics simulation. Boom. It'll probably, by the way, it'll probably do a thing where it searches for updates on yours, and you just tell it to skip that because it can't get to there's not going to be an update in the first place. Anyway, so we saw everything fall down, and that was neat. Let's back up for a second, try it again. Another option, you can grab stuff inside there and move it around. That allows you to do your collision detection up front. And you can see what happens, by the way, if you miss the floor. The thing just keeps falling out into infinity, and if you've got a dimension on it, it'll count that number up pretty high before SketchUp crashes. Okay, so let's back up there, and we can see where we started. Notice a couple of things that are going on with this. The box here is going to fall down, partly because of the weight of the cone on top of it. Boom. So it's checking the weight. It'll do balances and stuff like that as it goes. Okay, well that's a pretty good way to start. Let's begin with that, and then we'll come back and make some more interesting things.